Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Monday, March 31st, and we are in Ezekiel 40, and I'm still working on the introduction. We probably aren't even going to get to verse 1 today. Ezekiel 40 has been called by many commentators, Ezekiel 40 through chapter 48 has been called by many commentators as the most difficult biblical passages to understand in the Bible. So if you would keep me in prayer as I'm preparing these, if you see that there's a day where there's no video, it's because I just don't have the next lesson ready, and I want to make sure that I'm delivering it with accuracy, with integrity, with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So we're going to be talking about an article that I saw in gotquestions.org, and I'm pretty much going to read it to you verbatim because it gives you the background of everything that has happened thus far. And this is what it says. Ezekiel was born into the priestly line, which we see in Ezekiel 1:3, but he served God as a prophet. In Ezekiel 40 through 48, Ezekiel sees a detailed vision of a grand and glorious temple. This lengthy vision has been the subject of much speculation and various interpretations through the years. He began his prophetic ministry before Jerusalem and the temple were destroyed by Babylon in 586 BC. Prior to the destruction, many false prophets assured the people that God was with them and that nothing would happen to them. True prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel warned that God's judgment was coming. The prophet sees the glory of God leaving the temple. Ezekiel was taken into exile in Babylon and probably in the second deportation of the Jews in 597 BC. In exile, he encouraged Israel that judgment would not last forever, but that God would restore Israel once again. In Ezekiel 37, he relates the vision of the valley of the dry bones, in which he describes the reunification and reanimation of a dead Israel. In 38 to 39, he predicts the battle of Gog and Magog. In his vision of the temple, Ezekiel is taken to Israel where he sees a mountain and a city. He is met by a man whose appearance was like bronze. He was standing in the gateway with a linen cord and measuring rod in his hand. The man tells Ezekiel to pay attention to everything he sees and hears and to relate all the details to God's people. The measuring of the layout of the temple is complex, and it fills the next 3 chapters of Israel. So the measurements of this temple is extremely detailed, extremely very precise and very accurate. So of course, as I'm doing my research of this, I'm thinking all these measurements are going to be very important. And what I'm finding is that they are just measurements. And that this temple has never existed up to this date. It is not Solomon's temple. It is a temple that has yet to be built. So of course I've been looking at a lot of different websites and a lot of different things, and what I'm finding is that the sides of this temple would measure 500 cubits, and it's sitting on a mountain. Well, in that region, there is no mountain large enough to accommodate the square with 500 cubits on each side to fit on that mountain. And I'm like, so where is this temple going to be? Well, then I found in Zechariah 14, verses 4 through 9, this is what it says. On that day, his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives that lies before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west by a very wide valley, so that one half of the mount shall move northward and the other half southward. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach to Azal. And you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. On that day there shall be no light, cold, or frost. And there shall be a unique day, which is known to the Lord, neither day nor night, but at evening time there shall be light. On that day waters shall flow from Jerusalem, half of them to the eastern sea, and half of them to the western sea. It shall continue in summer as in winter. And the Lord will be king over all the earth. And on that day, the Lord will be the one, and his name one. What is this talking about? It's talking about when Christ comes back and sets up that millennial kingdom. But what really jumped out at me is that the Mount of Olives physically changes. So that gives me reason to believe that there's going to be, and on top of that, the Mediterranean Sea and the Dead Sea are going to be dividing at the land, and it's changing things in the future, and that Dead Sea is no longer going to have no life in it. Now there's going to be life in it. So the land is going to physically change, and it's going to dramatically physically change. And that's how it's accommodating this massive temple. On top of that, as I'm digging through this, some things really jump out at me. There's going to be no veil in this temple. There's no veil to separate us from the presence of God because it's in that millennial kingdom. The altar of incense that carries the prayers up to God is no longer going to be there because we're going to be talking to God face to face. So there's no need for prayer because we just go and we talk to him. On top of that, there's going to be no bread of presence. Remember, Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Jesus is right there. So there's no reason for that bread of presence. There's no lampstands because the light itself is coming from the Lord. And the Ark of the Covenant is not found in this temple. Why? Because God's plan of redemption has come to completeness. There's no need for that Ark of the Covenant anymore in that millennial kingdom. We're going to see some really cool things as we move forward. I ask that you keep praying as I do my research so that I can deliver this well. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.